Hello guys, welcome to another session. In this session, we are going to talk about CSS syntax. So let's jump into the topic and where we will do the discussion on CSS syntax. So basically, CSS is nothing but a collection of rules which can be applied to tags or HTML elements on the HTML document. So that means each rules target a specific tags or elements on a HTML document. So that means that whenever we are targeting any specific tags, we are giving a visual property to that specific tag, and that also means that how you want to see that particular tag into the browser with the help of CSS rules. So for example, if you target all the p tags, that is paragraph tag, and where you are telling that all the p tags should display in the font size of 11 pixels, so that's how your text is going to be look in your web page. You can also target the specific id on the web page. So for example, if any element is having an id called x, and you are targeting that X ID has a background color of red, then you can easily target that X ID and apply the formatting on that particular ID with the help of CSS rule. So that's what the CSS rule is used for. We target content and then we will apply rule on it. So let's jump into a diagram and where we can look into how the CSS looks like. That means CSS rule syntax. So basically each syntax rule comes with two parts. The part which is at the left is the selector and the part which is at the right is the declaration. So here selector is used to select the target element where we want to apply the formatting or say style. So in this particular example here we are specifying that whichever the div element whose id is div hyphen x, you should apply the background color yellow to that particular div. So here you are seeing that the hash character which is actually representing the ID within the CSS, which we are going to cover in further session of this course where we will discuss about the ID and the classes within CSS. For the time being, you just remember that in CSS, ID is being represented with hash. Along with that, you should also remember that you should write selector at left and the visual property, that is a declaration, at right. Now let's have a closer look at selectors. So there are multiple ways by which you can target with the help of selectors. So a selector can target ID, classes, tags, which you are seeing over here, that if you want to select the ID, then you have to specify this syntax, and if you want to select the class, then you have to specify this syntax, and if you want to target a particular tag, then you can specify the name of that particular tag so that you can apply the visual property on the target element. So this is one of the way by which you can apply the style to the elements within the HTML document. But suppose a scenario where you want the particular element contains an ID and you want to apply the styling to that particular element which has the ID. So the syntax for this scenario is this one. So the syntax for the said scenario is that we have a ID of the selector where we are representing the ID here, and then we have the element, which element we want to apply, and here we are telling that the paragraph element, and what is the visual presentation. So that is the declaration which we are specifying over here, and we are telling that the font size of that particular paragraph which is having ID X, it should be 15 pixel. And this is not limited to the ID, you can use for classes as well, but here instead of hash it should be dot over here if you are applying the style to the class. So let's look into that. So here you are specifying that whichever the divs belongs to this particular X class, their background color should be yellow. Now let's have some discussion on declaration. Declaration contains properties and values. As we already seen that selector at the left and the declaration at the right, which is in the form of key value pair. In this example, font size is the key and 15 pixel is the value, and together we can call it as a declaration. And every declaration starts with opening curly braces and ends with closing curly braces, and within that you will specify the properties and the values. So the properties always be in the left side and the values is always been to the right side, and that ends with the semicolon. Here actually I did a mistake, so here it should contain a semicolon, and you can specify multiple properties as well. Over here you can see that we have a specified font size, one property, and the color is another property which is being separated with the semicolon. So the two things you must have remember that whenever you are doing the declaration, this colon you should specify and this semicolon you have to specify at the end of each properties. So we have done enough of discussion. Let's jump into the Visual Studio Code and let's get our hands dirty. So we are into Visual Studio Code, and here we will create an HTML document and we will apply some styles to the element of the HTML document. So for this exercise we need an HTML document. We will call it as syntax demo, and another thing which we need is the CSS file. So give it a name. So we can give it syntax css.css. So here we will generate an HTML files with the help of HTML snippet. So let's generate it. Now we will specify the title over here. Can I specify the title syntax demo, and here we will generate some element like header. So let me write it. So I have written the HTML document over here which contains a div element with an ID header, and within that we are having a header 1 and the header 2 with the paragraph element, and outside of this we are having a paragraph element. So now let's start writing the CSS for this particular HTML document. So I am going to open two pane over here. You need to select this one, so it will open the another pane, and here we will open this CSS file. It selected this one because my cursor was here. That's the reason it has opened this file within this pane. So whichever you will select and open the file, it will open into that particular pane. So that would be fine. We are going with this one. So it has created two groups, group 1 and group 2. So this pane is representing the group 1 and this one is representing the group 2. So let's close this one. So let's start writing CSS for this HTML document. So if you remember our discussion, the idea start with hash, and here we need to specify the header which we used over here, and then for declaration we need to start the curly braces, and within that we need to specify the key value pair. So let's write some property over here, position. So don't bother much about these property because I am going to cover all these property in the upcoming session. So just focus on how we are writing the syntax. So for here in this example we are going to use position, and that is going to be absolute. We are going to discuss all this in the upcoming session. So just focus on the syntax. Then we will tell that top is 0, left as well 0. So here we have selected the div which is having a ID header. Now next we will select the h1 tag which resides into this particular ID. So how we can select that? So it is pretty easy. As I already mentioned, we are going to specify header that is the ID of the div, and within that we are having the h1 element. So we need to specify the h1 element over here, and then we need to specify the properties. So let's give some declaration over here. We are going to give a font size that is of 35 pixel so that it should be little big. Now what we will do, we will target all the p tag, one which is residing within this div element and another one which is outside of this div tag. So let's do it now. So you can do it like this way. You should come here, you can target the paragraph tag which will be applied, and this formatting should be applied to all the paragraph tag within the HTML document. So for this case we are going to provide the properties, and that is going to be a 14 pixel, a little larger. So this is what I wanted to demonstrate you in this session. See you in the next session. Till then, bye bye, take care.